NHL history is full of blockbuster trades involving some of the game's biggest names. From the Edmonton Oilers trading Wayne Gretzky to the Los Angeles Kings in 1988, to the Montreal Canadiens shipping Patrick Roy to the Colorado Avalanche in 1995. Those trades had far-reaching effects on the fortunes of the teams involved. However, there were also several deals involving major NHL stars that came very close to happening. Imagine Leon Draisaitl as a member of the Montreal Canadiens, Steven Stamkos on the New York Rangers, or even the great one, Wayne Gretzky, playing in another Canadian market. Insane, right? Today, we're going over the craziest NHL trades that almost happened. Leon Draisaitl for Nikita Kucherov. After an insane 128-point 2018-19 regular season, the Tampa Bay Lightning were embarrassingly swept in the first round of the playoffs by the Columbus Blue Jackets. Following the heartbreaking elimination, the Bolts were looking to strike at their core and change things up. Revealed on the Jeff Marek Show 3 years later, Tampa was looking to trade none other than Nikita Kucherov on the draft floor. The rumored return would have been Leon Draisaitl. Kucherov was the reigning Hart, Art Ross, and Ted Lindsay Award winner. Crazy enough, Draisaitl would take home all 3 of those trophies the next season. This trade would have been amazing to see unfold, with Nikita Kucherov becoming Connor McDavid's right winger with his shooting abilities, and Draisaitl being the playmaker of Steven Stamkos' dreams. But I doubt Tampa Bay regrets anything, as Kucherov went on to help them win the next 2 consecutive Stanley Cups. Well, on the topic of Draisaitl, this wasn't the only time he was almost traded by the Oilers. Leon Draisaitl for PK Subban. That's right, the German superstar was almost sent to the Montreal Canadiens. In June of 2016, the Habs surprised the hockey world by trading defenseman PK Subban to the Nashville Predators for blue liner Shea Weber. Subban was in the prime of his career, having won the Norris Trophy in 2013, while Weber was a well-respected all-around defenseman and captain of the Preds. Subban helped the Predators reach the 2017 Stanley Cup Final, and Weber did the same, captaining Montreal to the 2021 Cup Final, though neither won the Stanley Cup. But before the Subban-Weber swap occurred, the Edmonton Oilers were also interested in Subban. According to TSN's Ryan Rishaug, the Canadiens set a very high asking price that included Leon Draisaitl, the Oilers' 4th overall pick in the 2016 draft, along with either Darnell Nurse or Oscar Klefbom, and more. At the time, Draisaitl was coming off of a 51-point sophomore season. Klefbom had finished an injury-shortened 3rd season, and Nurse had just wrapped up his rookie campaign. Meanwhile, that 4th overall pick became Jesse Puljujarvi, which didn't work out very well. Had this deal occurred, it would have significantly altered the futures of both teams. With Draisaitl and Nurse on their roster, the Canadiens likely wouldn't be rebuilding. Subban would have provided immediate help to the Oilers, but he wouldn't have had the same long-term effect as Draisaitl, who blossomed into a top 5 superstar in the league. Wayne Gretzky to the Vancouver Canucks. The Edmonton Oilers shipping Wayne Gretzky to the Los Angeles Kings in 1988 was the biggest trade in NHL history. It marked the beginning of the end for the Oilers' Stanley Cup dynasty, turned a spotlight on the Kings that the franchise had never had before, and really proved that any player could be traded. However, there was a possibility that Gretzky would have ended up instead with the Vancouver Canucks. During a January 2021 episode of the Sportsnet series Hey Berkey, former Canucks Director of Hockey Operations Brian Burke indicated the Great One was close to landing in Vancouver. He was approached by Arthur Griffiths, son of Canucks owner Frank Griffiths, who said he'd received a call from Oilers owner Peter Pocklington offering up Wayne Gretzky. In return, the Oilers wanted $25 million in cash, goaltender Kirk McLean, winger Greg Adams, and 3 first-round draft picks. General manager Pat Quinn asked Burke to crunch the numbers to see if the Canucks could make it happen. Burke said he would have loved to have Gretzky on the Canucks, but insisted they couldn't afford to cover the money. Had the Canucks been able to swing the deal, it might have turned them into an NHL powerhouse. Future superstar winger Pavel Bure joined the club 3 years later. Just imagine a line with those two on it. They would have been unstoppable. However, the growth of hockey in the United States wouldn't have been the same had Gretzky not gone to the Los Angeles Kings when he did. Steve Eiserman to the Ottawa Senators. Steve Eiserman is not only the current general manager of the Detroit Red Wings, but he was also one of their greatest players in franchise history in a career spanning 22 seasons. Nevertheless, the Ottawa Senators made a serious pitch to the Red Wings for Eiserman in 1995, as Senators GM Randy Sexton offered up center Alexei Yashin for the Red Wings star. At the time, Yashin was a rising star who was among the few bright spots on a Senators franchise that had only come into existence in 1992. Yashin put up 30 goals and 79 points as a rookie in 93-94, and 44 points in 47 games during the lockout-shortened 94-95 campaign. Steve Eiserman grew up near Ottawa in Nepean, and Sexton saw him as someone who could bring in fans for the Senators who were struggling on the ice and with attendance. It's a good thing the Red Wings didn't trade Eiserman, as his leadership and improved all-around play were crucial to their subsequent 3 championships in 1997, 1998, and 2002. Yashin starred for the Senators for 5 more seasons, but sat out the 1999-2000 season over a contract dispute. He was eventually traded to the New York Islanders in June 2001 for a return that included Zdeno Chara and the 2nd overall pick that turned into Jason Spezza. Taylor Hall for Cody CeCe. In 2015-16, Edmonton missed the playoffs for a 10th straight year and finished second last in the league. The Oilers weren't lacking for scorers, but they were clearly lacking on the back end, and the consensus was the Oilers wouldn't be a winning team before addressing their defensive deficiency. Although he wanted to be part of the solution in Edmonton, ultimately Taylor Hall would be the trade casualty. Looking to change their team's culture and beef up their back end, the Oilers made a hard pitch for Ottawa Senators defenseman Cody CeCe. The deal was very close to happening, but had to be cleared through Sens owner Eugene Melnyk, and with Hall due $30 million over the next 5 years, and Melnyk at the time notorious for not wanting to spend big money on his players, you probably can guess where this is going. While the Sens were pondering the deal, the Oilers pivoted and found a new buyer, trading Hall to New Jersey for Adam Larsson. Hall was an excellent scorer in Jersey, winning the 2018 Hart Trophy 2 years later, but in a parallel universe, his offense probably gave the Sens a big push in the 2017 playoffs, where they fell just 1 goal short of the Stanley Cup final, losing to the Pittsburgh Penguins in a Game 7 overtime in the conference final. Steven Stamkos to the New York Rangers. Chosen first overall by the Tampa Bay Lightning in the 2008 NHL Draft, Steven Stamkos has gone on to become their all-time scoring leader and captained the team to back-to-back Stanley Cups in 2020 and 2021. Stamkos' long career with the Lightning, however, never would have happened had a trade taken place during his rookie season that would have sent him to the New York Rangers. In April 2010, the New York Post's Larry Brooks reported that the Rangers general manager Glenn Sather claimed he had a handshake deal with Lightning co-owner Len Barry. Talks began when the two clubs opened the 2008-9 season with 2 games in Prague, Czechia. By November, the talks turned serious, with Barry being asked to choose 2 or 3 players from a wish list that included Ryan Callahan, Brandon Dubinsky, and Dan Girardi. However, the deal fell apart when Barry ran it by then Lightning's GM Brian Lawton, who wanted no part of it. It would have been a huge win for the Rangers, with Stamkos blossoming into a superstar at the same time that goalie Henrik Lundqvist was entering the prime of his Hall of Fame career. Funnily enough, Callahan and Girardi would both eventually become Stamkos' teammates in Tampa Bay. Chris Pronger to the Toronto Maple Leafs. After spending just 1 season with the Edmonton Oilers and helping them reach the 2006 Stanley Cup Final, Chris Pronger requested a trade, as his wife reportedly didn't like living in Edmonton. As Gord Stellick recounted for Sportsnet in 2015, the Toronto Maple Leafs were among 3 teams in the bidding for Pronger. Stellick indicated the Oilers would have accepted a package of defenseman Thomas Kaberle, center Alex Steen, and a first-round draft pick. However, Leafs general manager John Ferguson Jr. was reluctant to part with Kaberle, whom he signed to a 5-year contract extension earlier that year. Pronger was eventually traded to the Ducks in exchange for Joffrey Lupul, Ladislav Smid, 2 first-round picks, and a second-rounder. The star defenseman would go on to help the Anaheim Ducks win the Stanley Cup the very very next year. The Leafs, meanwhile, would be mired in a long playoff drought that didn't end until 2013, by which point Cabriolet was long gone. Eric Lindros to the New York Rangers. The Philadelphia Flyers pulled off one of the biggest trades in NHL history in June 1992 by acquiring the rights to Eric Lindros from the Quebec Nordiques in exchange for Peter Forsberg, Steve Duchesne, Kerry Huffman, Mike Rickey, Ron Hextall, and Chris Simon, plus the Flyers' first-round picks in 1993 and 1994, and $15 million in cash. Lindros went on to become a superstar with the Flyers, while the return received by the Nordiques laid the foundation for what would become a two-time Stanley Cup champion after the club relocated to Colorado in 1995 and became the Avalanche. However, the New York Rangers also put in a serious bid for Lindros. The Rangers' offer would have sent Tony Amonte, Alexei Kovalev, Doug Weight, John Vandesbroek, 3 first-round draft picks, and $12 million in cash to the Nordiques. Those 4 players enjoyed long and productive NHL careers, but whether they would have turned the future Avalanche into Stanley Cup champions is certainly questionable. Having Lindros on the same club as Mark Messier would have given the Rangers a dynamic duo at center. However, what they would have given up to get him might have prevented the Rangers' own Stanley Cup win from happening 2 years later in 1994. Denis Potvin to the Montreal Canadiens. One of the greatest players in team history, Denis Potvin was the foundation of a New York Islanders Stanley Cup dynasty. In his 15-season NHL career, the Hall of Fame defenseman captained the Islanders to 4 straight cups, won the Norris Trophy 3 times, and the Calder Trophy in 1974. However, the Islanders' history might have turned out very differently had they agreed to trade the first overall pick in the 1973 NHL Draft to the Montreal Canadiens. At the time, Habs GM Sam Pollock had a reputation for fleecing several other GMs for their first-round picks, the most notable of which led to the Canadiens selecting Guy Lafleur first overall in 1971. Pollock reportedly offered Islanders GM Bill Torrey 5 players from the Canadiens roster in return for the pick that became Potvin, to which he wisely refused. Without Potvin, the Islanders probably wouldn't have become a Stanley Cup dynasty. Meanwhile, Canadiens fans are left to daydream over how long their late 70s dynasty would have lasted, with Potvin on a blue line with fellow Hall of Famers Larry Robinson, Serge Savard, and Guy Lapointe. Pavel Datsyuk for Scott Gomez. During his 14-season NHL career with the Detroit Red Wings, Pavel Datsyuk became one of the league's best two-way forwards. A 2-time Stanley Cup champion and 3-time Selke Trophy winner, the Magic Man finished his career with 918 points in 953 career games. Datsyuk's tenure with the Red Wings, however, was in question in 2007. In the final season of a 2-year, $7.8 million contract, he was due to become an unrestricted free agent at season's end. Datsyuk was in contract negotiations with Red Wings management when a mid-season rumor emerged claiming he would be traded to the New Jersey Devils for Scott Gomez, who was also set to become a UFA. The trade was apparently so close to taking place that Fox Sports Detroit reported it as nearly a done deal. However, it never happened. Datsyuk would sign a 7-year contract extension, while Gomez departed the Devils as a free agent, joining the New York Rangers. Datsyuk tallied up back-to-back 97-point performances in 07-08 and 08-09 en route to a Stanley Cup. Meanwhile, Gomez's point production dropped significantly in the following years, with 6 other teams before his retirement in 2016. Vincent Lecavalier to the Montreal Canadiens. Quebec-born Hall of Fame forwards like Maurice Rocket Richard, Jean Beliveau, and Guy Lafleur played major roles in the long and storied history of the Montreal Canadiens. By 2009, however, the Canadiens hadn't had a Quebec scoring star of their magnitude since Lafleur's departure. Meanwhile, Vincent Lecavalier had gone on to stardom with the Tampa Bay Lightning, helping them win their first Stanley Cup in 2004. By 2009, however, there was front office turmoil among the Lightning's then co-owners, as Oren Cools wanted to trade Lecavalier before his 11-year, $85 million contract went into effect, while Len Barry wanted to keep the player. Montreal Canadiens general manager Bob Gainey swept in and attempted to acquire Lecavalier. Sportsnet's Jeff Merrick claimed Lightning GM Brian Lawton said the offer was either Suban or fellow blue liner prospect Ryan McDonough, along with goaltender Carey Price, winger Max Pacioretty, and a first-round pick. Barrie ultimately got what he wanted, and Lecavalier stayed in Tampa. It's a deal the Canadiens might have regretted. Lecavalier was in decline by that point and would be bought out by the Lightning in June 2013, retiring 3 years later. Meanwhile, Price, Suban, and Pacioretty were pivotal pieces of the Canadiens throughout the early 2010s. Price even helping them reach the Stanley Cup final in 2021. But which of these trades do you wish actually happened? Are there any we missed out on? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to click like if you enjoyed it, and make sure to subscribe for more NHL content. We'll see you in the next video.